Wait. We can't gloss over that, man. So Suge Knight and Jimmy Henchman had beef, yo? I ain't hear about that, yo. Go into detail about that.
Oh, they were beefing. Cause Suge them f***ed up the Vibe Awards.
Jimmy tells him, yeah, you caught me slipping, but you didn't catch me. He said, I sent you one message already. He's like, you ain't sent me. He said, I sent you a message in Florida. So I know what he's talking about, right? So my eyes like, he's like, yeah, you know, I sent you one message. He said, but I ain't giving you no more chances. Next time I catch you, you know what it's gonna be.
Marion Suge Knight, the 300-pound enforcer of the West Coast, ruled hip-hop through fear and power, casting a long shadow over the late 90s and early 2000s.
Suge Knight is a mythical figure.
The controversial CEO of Death Row Records.
The most feared figure in all of hip-hop. His size is intimidating.
Knight had been on probation for a 1992 assault on 2 aspiring rappers.
He intimidated Eazy-E, leaning on him over contract disputes, and even backed Eminem into moments on the West Coast that left him feeling exposed and uneasy.
He's a beast, he was a bully.
Good night, how you doing? Don't kill me. All right.
How does it feel to be so feared?
I don't look at it as fear, I look at it as respect.
Everything shifted on the night of August 20th, 2005, when he crossed paths with Jimmy Henchman at a Miami VMA after-party. After Suge blew cigar smoke in Jimmy's face, chaos exploded. Gunfire rang out, the boogeyman went down, and his reign was never the same again.
So, you know, when Suge got shot in Miami, knew who sent it. When you was in Miami, you was in his turf.
Let's dive in. Long before the chaos at the Shore Club, Marion Suge Knight controlled hip-hop through fear. Branded the most dangerous man in the game, Suge was impossible to overlook. Towering at 6'4" or 6'5" and pushing nearly 300 pounds, he wore his size like armor, stalking rooms with the calm confidence of a predator.
He's a beast, he was a bully.
Good night, how you doing? Don't kill me. All right.
I'm talking about slap men hard. I'm talking about an open fist across their face.
Police in Los Angeles charging Knight with assault and battery.
Suge was affiliated with Bloods.
Backed by his ties to the East Side mob Piru, a Blood set out of Compton, Suge's mere presence was enough to quiet even the boldest rappers, managers, and executives. Measured against peers like Puff Daddy, whom Suge brushed off as a schoolboy, or JD, whom he called a kid, he stood apart as a true menace.
Compared to all the other execs during that time, Suge was a menace. Puff was a little school guy to him. JD was a little kid that grew up in hip-hop.
A figure whose intimidation blended raw instinct with calculated strategy, his criminal record was lengthy and brutal. Starting in the late 1980s with assaults and weapons charges, it signaled the rise of a chaotic reign that would come to dominate the West Coast.
Suge was involved in drugs. Suge was involved in, he was a half pimp.
Suge Knight goes back to jail.
This is like some Godfather type stuff.
Suge's reputation was sealed during the deadly East Coast-West Coast feud. In 1996, he was caught on camera viciously attacking a gang rival at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas, an incident that sent him to prison for 5 years of a 9-year sentence.
The music producer is accused of running down 2 men and killing them in a Los Angeles parking lot.
Hours after that assault, Tupac Shakur, Suge's flagship artist, was fatally shot. 6 months later, Christopher Wallace, the notorious B.I.G. of Bad Boy Entertainment, was gunned down as well. Suge was repeatedly suspected of involvement, allegedly seeking revenge for Tupac, though he was never charged. Wallace's family publicly accused him, cementing Suge as a figure whose influence stretched far beyond music. His name alone could shift the mood in any room. Suge's fury was not limited to rivals. After Dr. Dre left Death Row in the mid-1990s, Suge made repeated attempts to undermine everything Dre built. That hostility boiled over at the November 2004 Vibe Awards, organized by associates of East Coast power broker James "Jimmy" Henchman Rosemond. As Dre rose to accept an award, one of Suge's associates struck him, landing a hard punch. Rosemond confronted Suge, shouting that he had ruined the event. Later, Suge mocked Dre publicly, claiming it must have been humiliating to be hit in front of his wife at the previous year's Vibe Awards.
He bounced from an end table in front of G-Unit them, and he hit a beeline straight to the man Dr. Dre and gave him a little overcut. Boom! You know what I'm saying? And Dr. Dre bodyguards them jumped up and went at him.
For Henchman, this was a major insult. The second strike in a growing list of Shoog's disrespectful moves.
He's like, yeah, you know, I sent you one message. He said, but I ain't giving you no more chances. Next time I catch you, you know what it's gonna be.
Shoog allegedly set his sights on the game Henchman's protege, Dre's artist, at the 2004 MTV VMAs. Rumors swirled that Shoog had physically targeted him by constantly intimidating Henchman's associates, making sure the East Coast power player would not forget. Henchman, running a massive cocaine operation and with a history that included orchestrating Tupac's 1994 ambush, was a man of strategy, precision, and lethal calculation. The collision between Shoog and Henchman was inevitable as the 2005 VMA afterparty at Miami's Shore Club approached. Two of hip-hop's most dangerous figures were on a direct course toward confrontation. Suge's reign of terror had dominated Los Angeles, but Henchman represented a new kind of threat, methodical, strategic, and unflinching. By the time the lights dimmed at the Shore Club, the stage was set. The simmering tension between Shoog and Jimmy Henchman reached a violent peak on the night of the 2005 MTV Video Music Awards. During the official Kanye West afterparty, shortly before 1 a.m. on Monday, August 20th, the two men finally occupied the same space. Shoog sat at a table with friends, relaxed on the surface, having remarked earlier that he loved the awards because everyone was just getting along. But beneath the calm, a storm was brewing. Veteran industry photographer Johnny Nunez witnessed the pivotal moment. Henchman, ready to confront Shoog publicly, approached Nunez and said, "Johnny, come, get this shot," as he was guided toward Shoog's table. Ever theatrical, Shoog performed his signature move. Inhaling deeply, he exhaled a perfect ring of cigar smoke straight into Henchman's face. The insult was deliberate, a calculated humiliation, the point of no return. Henchman responded with silent precision. Nunez recalled him giving one head nod to the left, then another to him. Within seconds, chaos erupted. A shooter, described as a man in a hooded sweatshirt, or, according to early police reports, a black man in a pink shirt, approached Suge's table from behind and fired at least 2 rounds. Shoog, 40 at the time, was hit in the thigh. Witnesses remembered the first shot sounding like a champagne cork popping, immediately followed by screams.
So when Suge Knight got shot in the thigh, he screamed?
Yeah. Yeah. He blur out. Yeah. He blur out.
The room descended into total anarchy. Guests scrambled and trampled over each other to escape, while Shoog was found on a couch in the VIP section, a towel pressed to his face, blood visible, and panic everywhere. He was rushed in a limousine to Mount Sinai Medical Center, where surgeons removed the bullet and repaired a broken bone. Despite the injury, Shoog stayed alert, speaking with friends and hospital staff. Yet the public nature of the attack right in front of celebrities and cameras sent shockwaves through hip-hop. Police struggled to identify suspects, blocked by witnesses unwilling to speak, intimidated by Suge's long reputation. Shoog later claimed the shooting was accidental, suggesting someone in Kanye West's entourage had dropped a gun.
Shoog's position is someone in Kanye West, because he came over and greeted him, talked to him, gun dropped, and went off and shot him in the leg. That's all. That's it. Those are the allegations.
Within the industry, the message was unmistakable. The attack was seen as retaliation for Suge's earlier humiliations, including the Vibe Awards incident involving Dr. Dre. For the first time, the boogeyman of West Coast rap was made to bleed in public. That night, Jimmy Henchman showed he could challenge Suge's dominance through precision, planning, and ruthless calculation. Shoog had ruled for years through fear alone, but that night in Miami, the rules changed. The gunfire inside the Shore Club's VIP Red Room instantly altered the balance of power in hip-hop. For decades, Shoog had been a 300-pound enforcer whose presence alone silenced rivals and kept the industry in line. But that night, the balance shifted when he screamed in pain after being shot in the thigh. It was more than a physical injury. It was a public, symbolic defeat, a visible crack in the armor of the West Coast Titan. In the immediate aftermath, Shoog was found slumped on a couch, a towel pressed against his face, blood soaking into the VIP carpet. He was rushed to Mount Sinai Medical Center, where doctors removed the bullet and treated a broken bone in his leg. Reports described him as alert and talkative, but the image of the supposedly untouchable Titan screaming in the middle of a packed nightclub spread rapidly, shattering the myth of his invincibility. For the first time in years, the industry saw that Shoog, feared, dominant, and unchecked, was physically vulnerable. The police investigation quickly stalled. Miami Beach police spokesman Bobby Hernandez confirmed that no suspects had been identified and denied early reports describing the shooter as a black man wearing a pink shirt, leaving witness accounts inconsistent. Many who had been present refused to cooperate, fully aware of Shoog's reputation and the danger of speaking openly. Shoog himself minimized the incident, claiming someone in Kanye West's entourage had accidentally discharged a firearm. Insiders, however, read the situation very differently. This was no accident. Industry speculation rapidly focused on Jimmy Henchman. Those familiar with the long-standing tension between the two men understood the shooting as retaliation. Henchman, calculating and methodical, was believed to have orchestrated the Miami attack in response to Suge's repeated humiliations, most notably the Vibe Awards incident, where Shoog publicly mocked Dr. Dre in front of allies and celebrities. Where Shoog relied on brute force and intimidation, Henchman relied on planning and strategic ambush, proving that physical dominance alone was no longer enough against someone willing to strike with lethal precision. The shooting was widely interpreted as a public declaration. Henchman had both the reach and the resolve to hit Shoog in ways no one else dared. The psychological impact was immediate. Shoog, once viewed as untouchable, had been exposed. Henchman, though smaller in stature, gained a lasting advantage in the psychological war between them. Later, during a tense three-way phone call following another encounter at Century City Plaza, Shoog mocked Henchman as a little guy who could run fast. Henchman, calm and unshaken, claimed responsibility for the Miami shooting, framing it as a deliberate warning. He told Shoog that he had already sent a message by getting him shot, then closed with a chilling promise of escalation, saying next time, the shot would be raised higher, aimed at his head. In his own words, the barrel would be lifted a few more feet.
When Jimmy Henchman told, because they had got into it over the phone. Next time I'm gonna have the dude raise that shot up a little higher and gonna be to your head.
That moment confirmed it. Henchman's retaliation was no accident. It was calculated, inevitable, and precise. The aftermath reshaped priorities across hip-hop's underworld. Shoog, physically wounded and publicly humiliated, pulled back from direct confrontations with Henchman, while Henchman turned his attention to other feuds, including an escalating and violent conflict with 50 Cent and Tony Yao. His methodical approach leveraging streets, media, and legal maneuvering proved effective, leaving a lasting imprint on the culture of fear Shoog had long dominated. The story unfolded differently for the two men in later years. Henchman was arrested in 2011 for running a massive drug operation and later convicted for orchestrating the murder for hire of Lel Fletcher, receiving a sentence of life plus 30 years. Shoog's legacy ended violently as well. Years later, he was sentenced to 28 years in prison following a fatal hit and run. The Shore Club shooting remained a turning point a night, proving that even the largest boogeyman of West Coast rap could be challenged, and that calculated, strategic violence could eclipse raw intimidation in hip-hop's high-stakes world. With Shoog's dominance publicly shaken in Miami, attention turned to the man behind it all, James "Jimmy" Henchman Rosemond. Unlike Shoog, whose power relied on brute force and intimidation, Henchman built his influence quietly, strategically, and with precise calculation. The Shore Club shooting was not the act of a hot-headed street figure. It was the execution of a carefully laid plan by a man who understood how to control both the music world and the streets simultaneously. Born on February 5, 1965, in Harlem, New York, Jimmy grew up in the Vanderveer Gardens projects of Flatbush, Brooklyn. Life was far from easy. The son of Haitian immigrant parents who later divorced, he was raised by a single mother alongside 4 siblings. At 16, he ran afoul of the law for stealing a bicycle and landed in Rikers Island juvenile detention. There, he crossed paths with some of the city's most notorious criminals, including Kelvin Martin, known as 50 Cent, not the rapper. During this time, he adopted the nickname Jimmy Ace, the beginning of a persona that would evolve into the feared Jimmy Henchman. After his release, Jimmy quickly immersed himself in Brooklyn's criminal underworld. By 18, he faced multiple charges, including criminal possession of a firearm and second-degree murder, though he avoided conviction on the latter. By the late 1980s, he had established himself as one of the borough's most feared street figures. Small in stature compared to someone like Shoog, he more than compensated with cunning, patience, and strategic thinking. Seeking legitimacy, he transitioned into the music industry while keeping one foot firmly planted in the streets. In 1991, he co-founded the How Can I Be Down conference, a hip-hop gathering that cemented his influence. Jimmy believed he never had to compete with anyone, he simply carved his own path.
You really know what you're doing and know what you're talking about, you can get a lot done. Instead of you competing with you at Def Jam and you're a rapper, that I have to compete and be better than Ja Rule or Jay-Z or DMX, and the list goes on and on.
Jimmy later founded Henchman Entertainment, which evolved into Czar Entertainment, managing artists like The Game. Beneath this facade of legitimate success, Jimmy's criminal enterprise thrived. At its peak, his organization included 10 core operatives and moved up to 70 kilograms of narcotics per week. Couriers transported drugs, cash, and even firearms hidden inside music crates, seamlessly blending the legal and illegal. He maintained strict operational security, relying on encrypted BlackBerry devices to communicate with associates, ensuring every detail of his operation remained monitored. Jimmy's ruthlessness was publicly evident as far back as the 1994 Quad Recording Studios ambush of Tupac Shakur. While he denied involvement for nearly 2 decades, government proffer sessions later revealed his orchestration of the attack. Former associate Dexter Isaac confessed that Jimmy paid him $2,500 plus jewelry to rob and pistol whip Tupac, specifically requesting a diamond ring for his girlfriend, Cynthia Reed. Tupac immortalized the betrayal in his lyrics, calling out Jimmy directly as the man who set me up, wet me up, stuck me up. This early act set the pattern. Disrespect would not be tolerated, and retaliation was guaranteed. By the time Jimmy crossed paths with Shoog at the Shore Club, he had perfected the art of combining street power with strategic calculation. Deliberate, patient, and willing to act with lethal precision, Jimmy operated like a chess master. Shoog relied on brute force and intimidation, but Jimmy orchestrated moves that left the industry guessing and rivals exposed. The Miami incident was not an isolated act of violence, it was a calculated message. Shoog's reign of fear could be challenged, and Henchman's empire, built on brains and influence as much as muscle, was a force to be reckoned with. Jimmy's feud with G-Unit and the kidnapping of his son added a darker, more explosive chapter to his story. By the time the Miami shooting thrust Henchman back into the spotlight, a slow-burning street war with G-Unit had already defined him. Unlike his battles with Shoog, this war hit close to home, striking at his pride and family. The tension began in 2005 when The Game, managed by Jimmy, was ousted from G-Unit by Curtis 50 Cent Jackson. Words escalated into insults, and insults became street-level provocations. Czar Entertainment's office sat directly across from Chris Lighty's Violator Records, which managed G-Unit, meaning every glare, rumor, and radio slight could spark immediate violence. And it did. The first major eruption came at Hot 97 after 50 publicly dissed The Game. Jimmy sent his associate Muhammad T. Stewart to escort The Game to the station. Shots were fired from 50's entourage, wounding one of The Game's friends. Hours later, bullets hit the Violator building in retaliation. While using intermediaries for targeted intimidation was not new for Jimmy, this incident lit a fuse that could not be contained. A year later, things escalated further. At the Apollo Theater, Tony, Yayo, and Jimmy clashed in a hallway, with G-Unit associates chasing Jimmy's crew while brandishing weapons. Later that night, shots were fired into Yayo's vehicle. Even Diddy attempted a peace meeting, but it collapsed when Chris Lighty publicly shoved Jimmy a humiliation he could not tolerate. Nothing, however, compared to the day that truly changed everything. In March 2007, Tony Yao and G-Unit affiliate Lowell Loy Mac Fletcher confronted Jimmy's 14-year-old son, Jabulani. They cornered, slapped, and threatened him over nothing more than a sweatshirt bearing the Czar logo. For Jimmy, a man who tolerated no disrespect, this was more than an attack. It was a declaration of war. He responded on all fronts, involving police, shaping the media narrative, and unleashing relentless street retaliation. Car torchings, drive-bys, targeted houses, failed ambushes, every move sent a clear message. Hurting his child would have consequences. The revenge reached its apex when Jimmy authorized the murder of Lel Fletcher, paying the shooters with 1 kilogram of narcotics. It was the final, irreversible act in a feud that had spiraled far beyond the realm of music, leaving a trail of violence and asserting the deadly reach of Jimmy Henchman's empire. And from that moment on, there was no turning back. The Miami shooting may have wounded Shoog physically, but the true breaking point came later, quietly, without cameras, crowds, or nightclub chaos. It occurred in a moment where reputations either survive or collapse. For Shoog, once treated as hip-hop's immovable wall of fear, it was the moment the myth finally cracked. Weeks after Miami, Shoog crossed paths with James Rosemond at Century City Plaza in Los Angeles. The encounter was brief, tense, and unforgettable. According to those who recounted it, Rosemond didn't try to play the hero. He moved quickly, instinctively, like a man outnumbered and outmuscled. Shoog misread it as cowardice. For Rosemond, it was strategy, but Shoog couldn't let it go. The image of the smaller, quieter man slipping away gnawed at him. He pressed whack 100 for a three-way call, determined to reclaim the dominance he believed he had lost. When the call connected, Shoog immediately tried to assert control, aiming to humiliate Rosemond. He attacked Rosemond's size, toughness, speed, anything to re-establish himself. But this time, the intimidation failed. Rosemond listened calmly, unshaken, unapologetic. When he finally spoke, he didn't yell or curse. He corrected Shoog's version of events. "Yeah, you caught me slipping," he said, "but you didn't catch me." Then came the turning point. Rosemond openly tied himself to the Miami shooting not as a boast, but as a declaration of intent. He framed it as a controlled demonstration, a message, nothing more. And he warned that there would be no next time. The tone shifted. Shoog, the man whose legend was built on pressure, threats, and sheer force, suddenly faced an opponent who didn't rely on size to be dangerous. Rosemond spoke with the certainty of someone who had already decided and never bluffed. After that call, their feud quietly dissolved, not through peace, but through inevitability. Rosemond turned his focus entirely to the escalating G-Unit conflict, and the two men never crossed paths in any meaningful way again. Fate, however, dealt both men similar ends. Rosemond was eventually swallowed by the empire he built, arrested, convicted, and sentenced to life, plus 30 years. Years later, Shoog received 28 years for a fatal hit and run. Two giants, two different styles. One ruled by fear, the other by calculation. In the story of their rivalry, the final psychological victory belonged unmistakably to James Rosemond.